Hello everyone, today we have new video review, and as you can see, this time we are going to talk about fresh release from Miniart. Of course, this is a kit which is molded in 1/35 scale as it's written here, and this time it copies Railroad Crossing, so it's a kit number 36059, and we have a commercial sample here, so it will be interesting to see what is actually supplied in this kit. It is part of the diorama series, so you will get exactly what you see here on the box art, and this is a commercial sample, so it means that's the final shape of this kit. Nothing will change and you will get exactly the same stuff as what you'll see in this video review. So first of all, you can see that we also have dimensions of this crossing, so length will be 430 millimeters and width will be 265 millimeters, so it's quite large, surprisingly. Moreover, the whole weight of the box is surprisingly, I would say, noticeable, so it's really interesting to see what is hidden inside. And on the side here we have some information about the manufacturer, barcode, QR code, and also some safety advices. Whereas on the opposite side you'll find some other bases which might be handy for diorama projects in 1/35 scale. In my opinion, they're also quite a decent kit, so definitely check them out in case you are planning to build a diorama in 1/35 scale. So this is a top opening box. And here is what we have inside. Straight away we are met with a large plastic panel, which is really unusual, I would say. And as you can see, packaging is really tight. We have spruce packed in between these two large plastic panels, and then on the bottom we have some assembly manual, but as usual everything is sealed into plastic bags, so just give me a second to cut through it and we will check everything together. In the meantime, let me remind you that you can support us financially. We have a special donate button on our website, so if you would like to help us, for example, in a difficult time like now when my PC broke down again, so you can support us with a small donation, and all this money will be used in order to get the new equipment or fix the current one, maybe get some interesting kits, maybe also to do some giveaways, etc, etc. It will be something what will be developed in our channel, and I really appreciate help from some of you who already donated, because it made the difference. It made possible to get some kits which we were not able to get before, so really cool thing, and thank you for believing in our channel and donating this money. So we are going to start with decals, and here you can see them. So decal sheets are not that big. Here we have two signs and also various letters. Frankly speaking, I am not sure where these letters will be applied, maybe on special post signs, we will see, but printing quality is really nice because it comes from Decals, so there is nothing to worry about. As for the plastic panel, here it is. As you remember, we have two pieces, so if we zoom in here you can see this part in detail. Obviously it will demand some priming and then painting in order to get the more or less convincing finish. It is not thick, as you can see, but it's quite sturdy, and here is what is hidden inside. So as you can see, it's, I would say, 3D-ish structure, and maybe you can incorporate it into some kind of model stand in order to look even more convincing. That's I would say, that's up to you what you will do with this stand, but it looks quite good. Next we continue with two sprues of the similar type. I will show you only one because there is no need to show the same stuff again and again. We just do not have time for that. I hope you can agree. So here we have various minor parts for the tracks, landing gear tracks, from what I can see in assembly manual. We will check assembly manual a bit later, but as you can see, molding quality is really nice. All these attachment points are thin enough in order to carefully separate them. Here you can see these parts from the opposite side, so I really don't think that you will encounter any issues here. And we can move on to next plastic sprues. So again, we have pair of frames. I'll place one so that we can check closer what is here. Let's zoom out first. So here we have more parts for the post, for the traffic post, and as you can see, it is matter of assembly of separate panels together. And here I would recommend to be careful because these parts are not that thick, so it might be easy to break them, but with the due care you'll be able to get a right structure. Just keep track of the alignment so that everything will be in the proper axis. Next, we continue with even thinner parts, and here is where it gets a bit more interesting because all these thin lines will be really tricky stuff to get from the frame and then to install onto the sprue. These plastic parts are really tender. We all know this from previous Miniart kits, and I would recommend to not to hurry here, maybe to use plastic saw because it will make it possible to release the part without cutting into the part because it's really thin. I can zoom in so that you can understand what I'm talking about. As you can see, it's almost like a metal wire. Maybe it can be possible to replace it with a metal wire, but you have to incorporate somehow these both ends. So it's easier to be careful with these parts and install them in a proper way than to try to install the metal wire into this construction. Next, we continue with two more, I would say, identical plastic frames. So you can see we have a lot of minor elements which will be used on this railroad crossing, and some of them will be placed on the pole, so be ready to install them in a right position. But again, it's a cool thing that all these minor elements are duly copied in the set. They're not omitted, and therefore you will be able to show them on your diorama base. Here we continue with the control box. As you can see, we also have the special traffic light, as far as I can guess. But we will see in assembly manual. From what I can see, it's a traffic light, so correct me if I'm wrong. But everything looks cool. Box is assembled by combining these two parts together. As you can see, we have quite an interesting parts design here, but it's not difficult to do, so just do not hurry with this stuff. Next, we continue with the next thing. So this is a part of broken of sprue. I guess it was the one with thin parts. So here we have another end of this frame. As you can see, we have here some large parts and also some gears for this special lever which will be closing the railroad crossing. And if we flip it over, here you can see that parts are also detailed inside, and again everything looks quite convincing. So it is a standard out of the box plastic kit detailing. And that's what's really cool because you get it for a quite reasonable price actually. Next, we continue with two identical plastic frames. So here they are. Again, we are checking only one because they are similar and there is no need to show the same stuff again and again, as I said before. So here we have special, I would say, backboards for the signs. We have a small post or pole. We also have some wooden parts, and as for the wooden parts, I can show you that they do feature some texture on them. As you can see, it is pre-molded, so you won't have to be worried about any, I would say, additional weathering imitation on these parts. They're not smooth just like in some other kits, so everything is ready to be used, and the only thing required from you is to apply some convincing wood weathering maybe, and you'll be good to go. Next, what do we have next? So here we have two similar plastic frames. Again, we leave only one here. So here we have another pole which will be installed on one of the sides of this railroad crossing. We also have some wooden boxes which will be placed on both ends as far as I remember, but we will see. And again, we have even here on such small parts we have a wooden texture, which is really cool in my opinion. Okay, next we have thin parts, actually clear parts. I'll show them in a plastic bag because they're easy to see, so there is no point to cut through this plastic bag and waste time trying to cut through. So here, as you can see, we have clear transparent parts. We also have this thread which will be used in order to imitate the metal wire. I think it will be used on the this crossing post or crossing bar, and of course we have clear lenses which will be installed on the crossing parts as well. Again, really nice inclusion, because some manufacturers would just omit it and not include it here, and maybe suggest you to find some replacement. Next we continue with 4 identical plastic frames, so I will show you only one, because here we have parts for the railroad itself. As you can see, we have these wooden bars and also rails, and everything looks cool in my opinion, so it's just a matter of careful assembly of everything in place and maybe adding some convincing weathering and you'll be good to go. As you can see, again, we have here some wooden texture, and note that these rails are not completely identical, so we have some variety between them, and that's also important because you won't have uniform rails just like in some, let's say, artificial plastic model. You have some variety here which should be a bit more natural looking in the final result. And of course, as you remember, from the opposite side we had another plastic base which would be used from the opposite side. As for the assembly manual, it is printed in form of this brochure, so let's place it here, zoom out, close the camera, and now you can see that here we have parts map. Obviously there is no history note, and we start by assembling these poles. As you can see, they should be assembled out of separate panels from each side. We also assembled these special traffic lights by using the clear parts, so be ready for that. Straight away we start working with the thin parts, and here we continue with these various levers which will be placed on the pole. This is actually a really interesting design, because as you can see, a lot of parts will be interconnected together. I'm not sure if they will be movable, because here we don't have any mention of the part not glued into the place. As you can see, everything is marked as glued into place, so maybe it will be fixed and you will have to decide in advance which position you would like to replicate in your project, and maybe there is some way to make it workable, to make it movable, so that you can show it in your build. But next we continue with this. So we assemble this lever, then we continue with the special mechanism, and we install these signs and use this plastic board in order to install this special bar and holding post for it. So I guess that's one side of the railroad crossing. Then you start assembling the railroad itself, and here we continue with installing these wooden panels, which actually make it easier to cross the rails, obviously, because it's a railroad crossing, and you add these plastic panels from both sides. And that's why I'm saying maybe it would be a good idea to add some maybe plants, maybe trees, maybe some house, in order to make this scene even more convincing. And in the end we have a colors chart in several manufacturer designations, so I'm sure you'll find something what you are using in your builds. As for today's kit, it should be already available. You can get it in Modelimex webshop. Of course, I will be happy to hear your opinion about such a release. Write it here in the comment section below. If you like this video, do not forget to press the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye!